and welcome to Possibilities, the show where we give people living with a variety of different abilities and their loved ones a space to share their lives with the world. Thank you for joining us today, and here's your host, Danny Steeves.
Thank you, Andy, and welcome to today's episode of Possibilities. Today's episode is all about guide dogs, which I was requested to do this interview. I am a fan of the show, so I'm hoping this fan likes the show. So and, but anyway, today my guest is Maria Galindo from the Lions Guide Dog program, which is located in Oakville, Ontario, just north of Toronto, I believe. Maria is the communications manager, I believe. We'll get more details on that when she joins me in a bit. But she's gonna tell me all about guide dogs and what it is to know about guide dogs, because the Lions guide dog program of Canada is all about providing guide dogs to Canadians at no cost, and I believe they've been doing it since 1980 something, I think. Well, again, sorry about special language, but we'll get the specifics when Maria joins me in a few minutes here. So I know that guide dogs are a really useful tool, and I can't wait to share this story with you, because I think a lot of people can relate to this interview. So I'll be right back with my guest, Maria Galindo, and we'll get going here. So stay tuned. We'll be back in 1 minute. And joining me now is Maria Galindo from the Lions Foundation Dog Program. Maria is a communications manager of that program. Welcome to Possibilities, Maria.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you for having me and for having us on your show.
No problem. So I thought we might begin by telling me, how did the program get started in the first place?
So I'll first just explain what we do. So we're a national charity. We provide dog guides to Canadians with medical or physical disabilities across Canada at no cost. So if someone was interested in receiving a dog guide from us, they would go online to www.dogguides.com and learn about the 7 programs we have. And if they are the right fit for any of those programs, they could apply online and view all the qualifications that are needed.
And what you mentioned that you provide guide dogs at no cost. Like, how can you explain how does that work? Do you rely on donations or what?
Yeah, so we provide the dogs at absolutely no cost, and that means we breed the dogs. We select the best of the best to go on to the training. At that point, we train them as well. They're with foster families for about a year and a half. After that, they come back to the foundation and they start formal training in one of the 7 programs. And then we match them with clients or applicants, I should say, that are across Canada. We fly them to the foundation and they train for approximately 3 weeks with their new dog guide. Obviously, this is with an instructor by their side and kind of learning they learn how to work with their new dog. Then they fly back and we provide lifelong follow-up. So all of that is included in the no cost. You're not paying for any of that. You receive the dog at absolutely no cost. The way we're able to do it is, sorry, I'm just gonna respond to your question. The way we're able to do it is we're a charity. So we rely on donations from corporations and individuals in order to continue to provide these dogs, which cost approximately $35,000 each to pair with someone.
And how does the matching process work? How do you decide what dog goes with what handler? Yeah.
So the matching process is really interesting. We have a success rate of over 90%. So instructors look at the way the applicant and what kind of lifestyle they have. Are they very active people or are they more homebodies? Do they like to get out and about a lot, or are they, do they most of the time, do they stay at home? Do they go to school or do they go to work? What type of work? And then they look at the dog in the program that they have. They typically have 6 to 8 dogs per class that are ready to go. So they'll look at the dog and see the personalities of the dog and the person and their lifestyle, and then they match that. So think of it like a matching app, like, the applications that are online to find, a partner or a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Think of it like that. We're making, instead of love matches, we're making dog matches. So we see, are they compatible? Will they get along? Do they have things in common? Is the dog very active? Does the dog want to go, is the dog able to keep up with a faster lifestyle? If so, then he would be great for someone that likes to go to the gym, has a busy schedule, goes to school. So think of it that way.
Yeah. And this may be a weird question, but is there ever a time where the recipient comes to the school and you guys have a dog ready for them and they say, oh, you guys say this is not the right dog for them after they after you guys meet the person, or what is that like?
Yeah, so sometimes that happens. Sometimes, you bring the person here and they meet the dog and you say, well, we thought this would be a really good match, but maybe it's not. So then we switch them for another dog, right? So we have the option that we have, because we breed our own dogs and we have our own breeding supply, we have a lot of dogs. We don't have a supply issue. So we can switch for another dog and try them with a different dog that might be a better match. And then that's okay. Thankfully, we're able to do that. So it's not a question of, oh no, this is the wrong dog and we have to send them back. No, we'll work with another dog and make the right matching process. Yeah.
So how long does it take for the person to get matched with a dog on average?
It's a tough question to answer because it's really depending on, one, the program that you're applying to, how long the list is there for that specific program. And the other thing is personality. You might be at the very top of the list, but we don't have a dog that kind of matches your personality and your lifestyle yet. So we'll go to the next person because, the important thing is not just that you receive any dog, but you receive the right dog and one that will be, your partner for many, many years to come. So that's our priority. So typically it's about a 1 to 2 year wait, but it might be faster in other programs and it might be longer in others. So it really just depends on the program and the dog, if the right dog is ready for you.
You mentioned that you have your own breeder at the school, so you never how does that work? Like I mean like there's always new dogs being born, so you never run out. Is that right?
That's kind of the purpose of the program, so that we can always have dogs to train.
Yeah.
So we have approximately 300 puppies born each year from our breeding dogs, and we select our breeding. Yeah, it's a lot of puppies, and we select our breeding dogs by kind of looking at the best of the best. So if a dog is born and it's being considered for breeding, we'll keep an eye on that dog and see how its behavior, trainability, little things like that. Health-wise, is it in perfect shape? Because if it's in perfect shape, then that would be a good dog to breed. Is it a nice dog? Does it have any behavioral issues that we don't want to pass on? If we do, then we don't move forward with that dog as a breeding dog, and they're put into the program.
Yeah.
But lots of puppies, Danny.
Okay. What? I know that there are typically a guide dog is may use for someone who's blind. So but there are many other areas that guide dogs can be used for. Can you explain some of those and what they are?
Sure. Yeah, so when you say guide dog, you typically are referring to one type of assistance dog, and that's for someone that's blind or visually impaired. But a dog guides, and we call them dog guides because they're not just guide dogs. We have 7 programs. Yeah, so we're the only charity in the world that provides dogs in 7 programs. So we help, so we provide canine vision dogs. So those are for people that are blind or visually impaired. We also provide hearing dogs. So those are for people that are deaf or hard of hearing. We do service dogs for people that have medical or physical disabilities. So someone that has cerebral palsy could benefit from one of these dogs, or someone that is has been diagnosed with MS. So they would get a service dog. We also provide dogs in the seizure response program. So if you've been diagnosed with epilepsy, we train dogs to respond to seizures. In addition to that, we have 3 more programs. The diabetic alert program, that's for people with diabetes with hypoglycemic unawareness. And we have the autism assistance program for children diagnosed on the spectrum. And the last program that we introduced in 2018 is the facility support program. And that's for agencies that are helping people with go through traumatic situations. So think of it, if you're a child involved in the court system and you're given testimony, you can have one of the dogs come in your testimony and provide emotional support.
Yeah. And is there a certain type of dog for certain breed of dog that you like to use for certain areas, or does it matter?
We typically stick to 3 types of breeds, and they go through all the programs. So one breed is not necessarily the best for one specific program. The 3 breeds that we use, we've just found that they're really good at wanting to work and easy to train. So the first breed that we use is Labrador Retrievers. So this is your most common breed that you see in working dogs. You see them across, all over the world. They're friendly, they're very easy to train because they love food. So yeah, so they just, as long as you have treats, they're just eager and ready to work and learn. Another breed that we use is the standard poodle. So those are your big poodles with the curly hair. And that's because if you have allergies, labs wouldn't work for you because of the fur, but poodles have hair instead of fur. So they're hypoallergenic. Yeah, so that's why we use, they're also incredibly smart, sometimes too smart. So we use them as well. And then the last breed that we use is golden retrievers. And we often do purebred golden retrievers, or we mix them with the lab. So we do a combination of a Labrador retriever and a golden retriever. Again, they're just happy, really eager to please and easy to train because, again, they really love food. So those are the 3 breeds that we use now.
So what can you tell me more about your training facility and what is your training facility like?
Yeah, so our training facility, we actually have 2 training facilities. So one is based in Oakville and the other one is in Breslau, Ontario, which is close to Guelph. The one in Breslau mainly works as a training facility, so instructors can go and train their dogs there. But we also have our breeding facility. So all of the puppies are typically born in that facility. It's a sterile environment that is monitored by staff 24/7 in case anything happens and any of the moms go through any trouble while they're giving birth. And then we have the facility in Oakville, and that is where people come to train with their dogs. But it's also a place where trainers can train their dog guides. And trainers will spend approximately 6 to 8 months training their dogs.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot. So how?
It's a lot of work, right?
So how old does a dog need to be in order for them to start training with you?
So they start training essentially right away when they're born. Even if you think about it, we do a lot of contact with the dogs so that the dogs get used to human touch.
Mm,
We touch their pads when they're babies, just to get them used to, you know, adults and people touching them,
Yeah.
so that they're comfortable with it. So really the training begins really early on. At 7 weeks, they go to foster families to learn basic obedience and socialization. So foster families with staff's help will teach them, you know, how to sit, how to wait, how to walk on leash, all these little things. And then at approximately a year and a half, they come back to the foundation and they train with an instructor who has been through our training program. And they typically take between 4 to 8 months to train the dog. Some learn quicker, some learn slower, and that's okay. Everyone has their own pace.
yeah.
So the dog is approximately ready to meet their person that they're going to be forever, at around between 1.5 and 2 years old.
1.5 to 2 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So they need to be a little mature too. You don't want to get a young puppy because, well, they're just
No.
not ready to work, right?
No.
Like a human, you wouldn't send a child into the workforce. I hope.
Yeah. Yeah. And a guide dog. A guide dog is a guide dog is good for how many years on average before they stop and before they retire from service?
Yeah, so they typically retire from working or between 8 to 10 years old. It's hard because a lot of the dogs, they're getting to that age of closer to retirement and they'll
Yeah.
still want to work, right? This is what motivates them and this is what makes them happy. So we judge it based on, you know, the dog's health, and if they're still willing to work or even wanting to work, we don't want to push the dog to do too much at an age where they should be just enjoying their senior years. So yeah, we retire between 8 to 10 years old for the most part.
And then you match that handler with another dog, or what happens after that?
Yeah, so that's correct. The handler has the option to be a successor client, so they can reapply for a dog, or if they might not see the need for one anymore, so they choose to just adopt the dog that they had as a working dog, and not have a dog or a dog guide anymore. But it's really up to them and what they think is the best for their family and themselves.
So what is the applying process like? How do you apply for a guide dog if you want one?
So if you are a successor client, meaning if you've had a dog from us in the past, you would reach out to your instructor, the person that, you know, kind of guided you through this whole process, and let them know that your dog is no longer working. This would be a decision made by us as well. So we would reach out to you too and say, you know, what would you like to do? What are your next steps? Do you want to reapply for a new dog, or do you want to just, you know, keep the dog that you have and then not move forward with another dog guide? So that's really up to them. But it's a different process for someone that's had a dog already from us, because they already have our contact information, that we already have a file on them. So we already have a lot of the information that we wouldn't have from a new applicant.
So they so it's kind of a cage team when you reach you reach out to them and they reach out to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that's kind of the relationship that you'll always have with us when you have a dog from us. It's
Yeah.
always a partnership, because we need to know if the dog is doing well. Do we need to come out? We do once a year, we do a follow-up. So we always like to keep an eye on how the team is doing, if there's any challenges that they're working through, because if there is, then an instructor will fly out to you and help you through those challenges, right? So that's always the case. It's always a partnership between us and the person that has one of our dogs.
And and do you service Canada wide, or what is your criteria?
No, we service all of Canada. So we've got dogs up north, we have dogs out east, we have dogs out west, and lots of dogs in Ontario as well. But wherever you are, that's not a deterrent for us. As long as you're a Canadian citizen and you need a dog guide and you qualify for one, that's all we need.
So I don't know if you would be the right one to ask, but what qualifies someone for a dog? Like, what are the qualifications that you look for when you receive an application?
So it really depends on the program you're applying. Every program has different qualifications, and every program needs something different. So a medical note is something that all of the programs need. So you need a doctor's note just to sign off on your diagnosis. So that's something that is across that applies across every single program, but every program has a different qualification. So the seizure response program is different than, let's say, the canine vision program, right? So it really just depends on the program you're applying for. But all of the information is on our website, and it's under each program. So each program, if you click on Dog Eye programs, each program has it all laid out on the site.
And what is that website?
So it's www.dogguides.com.
Okay. And is there in your mind, is there a certain kind of disability that will not qualify as a guide for a guide dog, or do all kinds of disabilities apply when it comes to guide dogs?
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're not able to provide a dog to every type of disability. Like I said, we are a charity. We are able to provide in 7 programs, so we're able to cover a lot, but not every single disability, unfortunately. So if you're looking at some other dog for, let's say, for post-traumatic stress disorder, we don't provide those. You would have to look at another organization for a PTSD dog. That's just one example that comes to mind.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you some pretty hard questions.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. What in my mind, I would think that if you are matching someone with a dog, you want that handler to be not verbal, right? Or does that not always have to be the case? I mean, can can the handler, can the recipient of the dog, can the mother be the verbal person, or is it best for the handler to be the verbal person? Oh,
No, so that's not
Yeah.
true at all. So handlers can be nonverbal or verbal. So that's why I say the dog is very specific to the person. So if the handler is nonverbal, then at least you have to be able to communicate in some way to the dog. So a lot of our hearing dog guides work with people that are completely deaf. So they don't speak, they're mute as well. So the dog is taught signals, hand signals. So let's say I want the dog to sit, I do this. And we train our dogs that they are responding to sitting if that is required for that one individual.
Yeah.
So it really just depends, Danny, on number one, the program that you belong to, and number two, are you able to give commands to the dog in some way, right? Because the dog does need sometimes specific guidance. In the diabetic alert program, if you need help, you're gonna have to say the word help, right? In order for the dog to start barking and alerting to others that you require assistance. But the dog doesn't need a command or a cue to smell if you're going through if you're experiencing a low blood sugar level, right? That's not a command that you would give. The dog just has to sense that. So it depends. It's so specific that it all depends on the program and the individual.
I just wonder because I know a young girl who just got a guide dog, and she's nonverbal, and her mother really wanted to have the guide dog for her daughter, but the mother has to be the verbal one and say what the guide dog needs to do or whatever. So I just wondered what you would do in that case.
I guess like I said, it really depends on the program. If it's a guide dog, that means she's blind or visually impaired. So in that sense, someone does need to give the dog commands verbally, right? Because you need to let the dog to go forward or to find the door, or so in that specific program, communication is crucial. Verbal communication.
Yeah, because again, I just was curious. And what would you say for someone like myself who would like a guide dog but is allergic to allergic to dogs? How does that work?
So that would be that you qualify for a standard poodle. So that's one of the breeds that we work with. So those breeds are hypoallergenic. So they don't shed fur, they shed hair. So it's different. Yeah. So then that's what we do. So for people that have allergies, such as yourself, you wouldn't receive a lab or a golden retriever. You would receive a standard poodle.
Yeah.
So as long as you're okay with a poodle, we can work with that.
Yeah. Okay. Really hard question. A few years ago, I heard of this story that people were dressing up the regular dog and passing them off as service animals. What have you ever heard of that before? And what is your reaction when you hear something like that?
Yeah, so unfortunately, that is taking place across the world. A lot of people are passing their dogs as either, assistance dogs, so fake assistance dogs, or emotional support dogs, because they only require a medical note in some countries and some provinces. The big issue is that a lot of them are not trained properly, and they attack and hurt dogs that have been trained to assist a person. And that attack could stop the dog from working forever. So it impacts people that rely on these dogs and the dogs that have actually been trained and come from accredited organizations heavily. So our reaction to that is we hope one day we get to the point where it's not easy to buy a vest on Amazon that says service dog, because that's the biggest hurdle at this point is that it's too easy to pass off your dog as a working dog. And
why sorry to interrupt, but why do you think service vests are so easy to purchase?
I think it's just the world that we live in right now. Everything's so easy to purchase online, right? If I want a fake service dog vest, I can get it. If I want, to order my prescription online, I can do it. We've just become this kind of civilization where everything's attainable and just a button, a click away. So it's very hard to police that. And that is up to, unfortunately, the retailers, right? So it would be up to Amazon to control that. It would be up to eBay to monitor that. It wouldn't be, unfortunately, up to us, or even, I don't know if a government would be even able to do that at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just shocked. When I heard that story, because I was like, what the heck are people doing? Like,
oh yeah,
this is not a service animal. Is not something to joke around about. So I was like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, especially when they don't realize the impact that it has, potentially ending the career of an actual working dog that someone relies on to go get their groceries or go get their medicine, or go to work.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
More tough questions. Are you going to give me a harder question now?
No.
Okay.
We're winding down here.
Okay. That's good to know.
Anyway, how has COVID-19 affected you guys? Has that been a factor for you at all or not?
It's been a huge factor, unfortunately, and I think everyone can say the same thing. For us, two big things changed when COVID started. One, we weren't able to have fundraising events in person. So as you know, we're a charity, so we rely on those donations and those events to bring in money and help us, pay for these dogs and the cost of these dogs, and bring in people so that the applicants don't have to pay, right? We don't want that to be the case ever.
Yeah.
So our fundraising kind of took a bit of a dip, unfortunately. And the second one was that we were not able to bring in clients to the training facility to train with their dogs. So someone that was expected to receive their dog last year in the spring when COVID was, just starting, we had to suspend that. One, because restrictions came into place. So people from out of province couldn't travel, right? We have the lockdowns that started. And then the other thing is that we weren't sure if it was safe to have people in a confined space. So we had to come up with ways to continue training and ways for them to receive their dog, but with less contact.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What for you as a community, for you as a communication manager, what is the biggest rewarding part of your job?
Oh, I have many rewarding parts of my job. I would say the first one is I typically, in a normal year, get to see clients receive their dog. So the first time they're meeting the dog, I usually get to experience that, and they've been waiting for some time and they don't know what the dog looks like, the name of the dog. So I get to see when they first meet them, which is really, really a special moment.
Yeah.
I also see the graduation. So when they complete their training, we have a little graduation ceremony where we give diplomas to the person and the dog, and it's really emotional. And then the second part is I get to do follow-up stories. So if a dog does something incredible, they typically reach out to me and tell me like, Maria, guess what the dog just did? And it's something that is really special, and I get to know them really, really well and get to know that bond between that person and the dog. And I get to share it with everyone because my job is to communicate it to the world and internally as well.
So, how many staff members do you have working for you on average?
So we have on average, I would say probably around 50 staff members, and we are growing because we just see that there's more demand for people that need these dogs. So we are constantly hiring, and we'll probably grow even more next year in order to serve and help more people.
You mentioned before on the show, you provide service all throughout. You just don't provide service when the applicant get the dog. You provide them all throughout. So can you explain a bit more on how that works and how you stay in touch with the dog?
Sure. So we provide lifelong follow-up. So after you get the dog from us, we will always be in contact with you. We ask that you send us a vet record of the dog every 6 months because we want to make sure that the dog is still in good condition, in good weight. We want to make sure that the dog is being well taken care of. And number two, we want to know if the dog is still working and is assisting you, right? The whole point is the dog to make life a little bit easier and assist you with items, with tasks that you are not able to do, or to provide, health services such as the diabetic alert dogs or the seizure response dogs. So we want to make sure that the team is still successful. And if at any point you have any challenges or issues and you want assistance from an instructor, they can fly out to you and assist you that way.
That is awesome. And are you the only are you the only dog guide school that provide that to your knowledge?
No, so I think most schools provide follow-up because again, they really want to make sure that the partnership and the team is working well.
Yeah.
So most schools typically do provide some sort of follow-up or, after graduation assistance. So that's something that I think most accredited schools will provide at no cost.
And this may be a hard question for you.
Okay.
In your line of work, like how do you train a dog to respond to different scenarios, like say seizure, for example? How do you train that for that at your facility? Can you walk me through that for a bit?
I'll do my best, but I'm not an instructor, but I will say our instructors are like magicians. They're able to turn these dogs into whatever they need to be. So our instructors, if it's an instructor in the seizure response program, will train the dog to respond to different types of seizures by actually going through one or pretending to go through one, right? So if it's a very obvious seizure, then they will lie on the floor and start to convulse. And the dog has to bark and bark and bark and bark and bark until someone reaches that person. So they go through the actual scenario to train the dog to be ready for someone that will have seizures and have been diagnosed with epilepsy.
And what in the same thing goes for every other scenario? Is that correct?
That's correct. So instructors in the Canine Vision program will put a blindfold on themselves and have a person next to them just to make sure they're okay as they're training the dogs to see if you are blind or visually impaired. My life is on the dog's hands. We want to make sure that this dog is responsible and able to guide that person safely. If it's in the hearing program, they have to respond to 6 different types of sounds. So they'll train with those specific sounds. And if the person needs to introduce a new sound, then they will work with that individual to introduce that new sound and get the dog to alert to that. So it's all very specific to each program, Danny.
Yeah. And when a puppy is when the puppy is born, how do you decide what program they go into, or don't you decide?
So when a puppy is born, we don't know what kind of dogs they might be. They might be good for the autism program if they're a little bit more laid back, or they might be really good for the hearing program if they're very active and alert all the time, right? So it really depends. It's like, the way I compare it, it's like to children, right? So think of it, kids in kindergarten. You don't know which kid will be a doctor and which one's going to be a teacher, right? You have to wait until they grow up a little bit and see what their skills are. So that's kind of what we do. We follow the same structure in a way. So we call it Dog Guide University. So up until, they're with the foster family, they're just learning basic stuff. So think of it like your elementary school. So like the sitting is like basic math, and the socializing is your basic science. And when they're ready to specialize in one specific thing, like you do when you go to university or college, that's when we pick the program the dog will go into. And that's because we get to know them a little bit better. So they come back to the foundation and we see, wow, this dog is really active and alert. This dog would be great in the hearing program. So that's their major. They will graduate from the hearing program, we hope. And if it doesn't work, then we can move them to a different program that we think they might work well as well.
And to your knowledge, are there other schools in the guide dog area that provide 7 different programs, or is that specific to you guys?
Yeah, so we're the only ones in the world that provide 7 programs. Other schools provide different programs, but none like us are able to produce dogs in the 7 programs that we do. We're unique that way.
And why did you decide to do 7 programs?
So we didn't start out with 7 programs. We started out with 1 program, and then we slowly grew as we we got more comfortable with the industry. So we started with your most basic, well-known working dog. We started with the guide dogs, so to help people that are blind or visually impaired. And once we got comfortable with that program, we said, well, we can move on to the hearing program and help people who are deaf or hard of hearing. And then we did that and we're like, well, we can do so much more. Let's move on to help others. And, we have financially, we were able to do that. But it's not easy. It does cost a lot of money. So, if we ever wanted to add on another program, that would mean that financially we feel like we can take that on.
Yeah, as when you are training for a guide dog, are you required to stay at the school and work with your guide dog for a certain amount of time, or how does that work?
Usually, yes. In a non-COVID year, typically you would come to the school with any program and you would train at the school for about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the program, to get comfortable working with that dog. And then you would graduate. Like I said, we had a little graduation ceremony. COVID has changed things. So now we do a lot of virtual training. So we meet on Skype or Zoom or, other types of programs that we can chat online like this. And we go over the training online. And then we do, we provide that dog to you in person. So we go to your home and we give that dog to you and we train outside.
I can imagine that it's extremely hard to train over Zoom. How difficult is that training process?
It's pretty intense. We do a lot of the training that we're able to do over Zoom that doesn't require the dog. So training like taking care of the dog. So we go over the basic, healthcare conditions. We go over, how you would feed the dog, the times that you would feed and what's allowed and what's not allowed. So anything we can go over virtually, we do. But there are some stuff that we do need to go over in person, of course. You need to handle the dog and we need to see that everything's working out okay. So that's when we do the in-person at your place. So we call them home placements.
Yeah.
It is a lot more difficult than what we used to do, which is we used to have a group of between 6 to 8 people come in and form a class and teach everybody at once. That's changed. But we hope to one day go back to that so that we can assist more people.
And I can imagine that if someone has a guide dog and they're not using that guide, the dog on a regular basis, they lose some of the things that they learn. So how can you suggest people keep up their training if they are not going out on a regular basis?
So that was a really, really important thing for us, is to keep up with the dog's training and to make sure that they were still able to work. So a lot of the clients, like you said, were stuck in their home. So we said, continue to, go walk around the block at least. If you're going to get groceries counted as essential. So you're able to take that dog with you then. If you're going to medical appointments, make sure you take that dog to the medical appointments. And most people do because they rely on the dog anyways. But yeah, that was a big scary moment for us, is are these dogs going to remember their training? And thankfully, dogs, most of them, the majority of them did amazing. There were some troubleshooting that we've had to do, but that comes with the job, right? And with a pandemic, unfortunately.
Yeah. So are you back to normal yet? Like, now that the pandemic is winding down, or is there still a long way to go?
I think it's still a long way to go to going back to normal. We are starting to get there. So we are having clients come back to the school and train in person, but in smaller groups. We can't have the 6 to 8 classes for every single program. We have to coordinate everything a little bit better so that we keep our numbers low. We also have to do rapid testing. So when the client arrives, we do a rapid test to make sure that it's negative for COVID. And then our staff obviously have to test as well, just to make sure that we keep everybody safe.
This may be a weird question, but can an animal get COVID?
So we were really nervous at first because we weren't sure at the beginning of the pandemic. They were saying no, and then someone said a cat got it. So it can happen, but it's very, very unlikely. I think we've seen, 2 cases of animals getting it, domestic animals anyways. So yeah, so we were nervous at first, but it looks like we're safe thus far. We also keep, like I said, staff have to do rapid testing because a lot of people come into contact with the dogs, right? So we always keep staff, we ask them to take tests. You have to sign in when you come into the building, and you have to check your temperature. And if you've been sick, then you're asked to stay home. So there are all these extra steps that we are taking to make sure that everybody stays safe, including our dogs.
And will there ever be a time, do you think, where you will return to normal, or will it always be something where you can't go back to the way it used to be?
I hope so. I unfortunately don't really have an answer to that because it's not up to me whether the pandemic, kind of stops and we go back to normal life. I wish I could say yes, because I think everybody would like to go back to normal. That's my theory. But we've been able to adapt and to continue to work and provide these dogs. So that's the great thing about our industry, is that we have to adapt because we can't afford to just not provide these dogs. People need them.
Yeah, and on average, how many people do you guys provide service dogs to per year?
In a normal year, we typically do between 180 to 200 dogs.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot of dogs, I told you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're constantly full of dog hair at the office. Yeah, it's just dog hair everywhere.
Yeah.
We don't mind though.
If people are interested in getting a guide dog, how can they go about it?
So the first step is to go online at www.dogguides.com. All the information is there. If you prefer to call, that's not a problem either. Our number is listed as well. And you can phone and find out more information about how to apply for a dog, or maybe you want to be a foster family and you want to foster a little puppy for 1.5 years. That's also available on our website, or more information can be found by just calling. Yeah.
Is there any information that we didn't cover that you would like to cover?
No, I don't think so. I think one thing I just want to say, if people want to donate to the organization, they can do so online as well, or over the phone. It's just an easy process, and you can get a tax receipt for it as well.
Okay. Maria Galindo, thank you very much for joining us today. It was a real pleasure chatting with you.
Well, thank you, Danny, for having us, and I hope a lot of people learn about dog guides and what we're able to do. And if they have any questions, they can just go online, or they will reach out to you, I guess, because you're now the expert on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Danny. Have a nice day.
And we will be right back. And wasn't that a great chat with Maria Galindo? I hope you learn a lot about guide dogs, and if there's anything I missed on the show, you can let me know. My email address is possibilityshow@gmail.com, and if you want to get in contact with Maria, her website is www.guidedogs.com. So, hope you enjoy this episode, and I was gonna mention that if you if you are new to the channel, could you leave a comment on this video and like it, that would really help the channel out. And if you're new, please subscribe. And yeah, we'll be back with more shows in the future. And until next time, keep the gift of a disability. Once again, my email is possibilitiesshow@gmail.com if you want to get in contact with me here at the show. So have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.